Marsha P Johnson. Marsha P Johnson was an American gay liberation activist and self-identified drag queen. Known as an outspoken advocate for gay rights, Johnson was one of the prominent figures in the Stonewall uprising of 1969. A founding member of the Gay Liberation Front, Johnson co-founded the radical activist group, Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, S.T.A.R., alongside close friend Sylvia Rivera. A popular figure in New York City's gay and art scene, Johnson modeled for Andy Warhol and performed on stage with the drag performance troupe Hot Peaches. Known for decades as a welcoming presence in the streets of Greenwich Village, Johnson was known as the mayor of Christopher Street. From 1987 through 1992, Johnson was an AIDS activist with ACT UP. Johnson was born Malcolm Michaels Jr. on August 24, 1945, in Elizabeth, New Jersey, with 6 siblings and a father, Malcolm Michaels Sr., who was an assembly line worker at General Motors. Johnson's mother, Alberta Claiborne, was a housekeeper. Johnson first began wearing dresses at the age of 5 but stopped temporarily due to harassment by boys who lived nearby. After this, Johnson described the idea of being gay as some sort of dream, rather than something that seemed possible, and so chose to remain asexual until leaving for New York City at 17. Johnson's mother reportedly said that being homosexual is like being lower than a dog. But Johnson said that Alberta was unaware of the LGBT community. Johnson left home for New York City with $15 and a bag of clothes in 1963. Johnson waited on tables after moving to Greenwich Village in 1966. After meeting gay people in the city, Johnson finally felt it was possible to be gay and was able to come out. Johnson initially used the moniker Black Marsha but later decided on the drag queen name Marsha P Johnson, getting Johnson from the restaurant Howard Johnson's on 42nd Street, stating that the P stood for Pay It No Mind. Johnson was tall, slender, and often dressed in flowing robes and shiny dresses, red plastic high heels and bright wigs, which tended to draw attention. On the early morning hours of June 28, 1969, the Stonewall uprising occurred. In 1987, Johnson recalled arriving at around 2 o'clock that morning, that the riots had already started by that time and that the Stonewall building was on fire after cops set it on fire. The riots reportedly started at around 1:20 that morning. after Storm DeLarverie fought back against the police officer who attempted to arrest her that night. By 1966, Johnson lived on the streets and engaged in survival sex. In connection with sex work, Johnson claimed to have been arrested over 100 times, and was also shot once, in the late 1970s. Johnson spoke of first having a mental breakdown in 1970. According to Bob Kohler, Johnson would walk naked up Christopher Street and be taken away for 2 or 3 months to be treated with chlorpromazine, an antipsychotic medication. Upon returning, the medication would wear off over the course of 1 month and Johnson would then return to normal. At the time of Johnson's death in 1992, Johnson was said to be increasingly sick and in a fragile state, according to Randy Wicker. Shortly after the 1992 Pride Parade, Johnson's body was discovered floating in the Hudson River. Police initially ruled the death a suicide, but Johnson's friends and other members of the local community insisted Johnson was not suicidal and noted that the back of Johnson's head had a massive wound. Several people came forward to say they had seen Johnson harassed by a group of thugs who had also robbed people. Johnson was cremated and, following a funeral at a local church, friends released Johnson's ashes over the river. Police allowed 7th Avenue to be closed while Johnson's ashes were carried to the river. In 2016, Victoria Cruz of the Anti-Violence Project tried to get Johnson's case reopened, and succeeded in gaining access to previously unreleased documents and witness statements. She sought out new interviews with witnesses, friends, other activists, and police who had worked the case or had been on the force at the time of Johnson's probable murder. Some of her work to find justice for Johnson was filmed by David Frentz for the 2017 documentary, The Death and Life of Marsha P. Johnson. On June 30, 2020, Google celebrated Marsha P. Johnson with a Google Doodle. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Footprints for more videos.